Hello everyone, hope you're having a good day. This is Zishan and welcome to English with Z. I have other content about Cambridge English 1123 on the channel and more is in the works. So if you haven't seen the videos already posted, please do and stay tuned for the others that will be coming after this. Now in this particular video, what I'll be doing is going over the marking scheme for the reading paper, that's paper 1 for English 1123, according to the 2024 syllabus. So as you can see, I have open in front the marking scheme for the specimen paper that was published by Cambridge for examinations from 2024. And it's important for candidates to understand how they will be graded and what Cambridge expects of them when they're attempting the paper. So first of all, right, come the generic marking principles. And these are principles that are applied throughout the paper for all questions, right? Other than the specific marking criteria for each question. These are general principles which the examiners apply throughout the paper when grading candidate responses. And keep in mind, these documents are openly available on the Cambridge website. If you just search for them, right, you'll be able to easily find them. And I would highly recommend the candidates to go through these on their own, and it's going to be useful. Okay, so there are 6 general marking principles. Let's go over each one of these. The first one, right, how the marks are awarded. So they're awarded in line with the specific content of the marking scheme or the generic level descriptors for the questions. Right, so the marking scheme for each question has the expected answer, or there's a generic level descriptor, which is for the writing sections, the summary, right, the composition, the directed writing. So they have level descriptors of how well a piece is written and how well it fulfills a task, right? And so those are the generic level descriptors. So that's how marks are given. Then the specific skills defined in the marking scheme. So again, that or the generic level descriptors. The standard response, the standard of response required by a candidate as exemplified by the standardization scripts. Okay, so the kind of response a candidate is supposed to give. The second marking principle, marks are always given as whole, right? So you're going to get either a 1 or a 2 or a 0. There's no 0.25 or a half, none of those. Thirdly, marks are always awarded positively, right? So there was a student of mine who was concerned, someone mentioned that negative marking has been introduced in Cambridge from 2024. And so I guided them towards the generic marking principle and clarified that Cambridge does not employ negative marking uh, in their marking criteria, right? So marks are awarded for correct or valid answers, right, as defined in the marking scheme. However, credit is given for valid answers which go beyond the scope of the syllabus and marking scheme, referring to your team leader as appropriate. Now, obviously, this is a guideline for the examiner, and this gives room for the candidate and the examiner both. If a question is beyond the scope of what is in the syllabus, right? And perhaps not mentioned as an expected answer in the marking scheme, yet seems valid. So, after consultation with the team leader, the examiner can possibly award the candidate marks. But word of advice, do not bank on such an approach, right? This is not something that's going to happen very often or often at all, right? These are rare cases. So, this leeway, this space has been given for the off chance someone gives a valid answer that is beyond the scope of the syllabus and the marking scheme, but it's not going to happen every time. Okay. Marks are awarded when candidates clearly demonstrate what they know and can do, right? So if you know something and you can do it, you need to show it. Marks are not deducted for errors or omissions, so yeah, no negative marking. Answers should only be judged on the quality of spelling, punctuation, and grammar when these features are specifically assessed by the question, as indicated in the marking scheme. So if you make a spelling or punctuation or grammar mistake and it's not highly detrimental to understanding what you're trying to say in the answer, then your marks won't be deducted, right? I don't mean negative marking. It's not, it's just that you won't lose marks because of those errors, right? Unless the grammar and the punctuation and the spelling is what is being assessed, right? If that is the focus of the question, then obviously you lose marks if you get it wrong. But if your spelling or punctuation grammar is so grossly incorrect or inaccurate that it does not convey the meaning of your answer clearly, or it changes the meaning of the answer, then yes, you will be losing marks, right? So yes, the meaning should be unambiguous. So the meaning should be clear, even despite those mistakes. If the spelling, punctuation, or grammar is not the criteria of grading the answer. Generic marking principle 4. Rules must be applied consistently, right? Now, this is uh, right in situations where candidates have not followed instructions or in the application of generic level descriptors. So, this is more of a guideline for the examiner, that if they're going to penalize a candidate for not following instructions, then it's going to be applied consistently throughout the paper if the candidate's done that over and over again. And the application of generic level descriptors. So again, for whatever writing task there is, right, those level descriptors need to be applied consistently. Marks should be awarded using the full range of marks defined in the mark scheme for the question, right? So as we'll go over the marking scheme, we'll see, oh, okay, so you'll get 1 mark if you write this much of content, and 2 if you write more and it's relevant and it's well worded, and 3 if it's very precise. So if you meet all of those, right, then you'll get the 3 marks. If not, then 2, then 1. Okay. However, the use of the full mark range may be limited according to the quality of the candidate responses seen, right? So maybe you've written everything that was required, but the quality isn't up there. The vocabulary, the spellings, the grammar, the punctuation of that's, as I mentioned earlier, right? If it's the kind of mistake that will make your answer difficult to understand or ambiguous or unclear, then despite giving the full response, you may not get the full range of marks. And lastly, marks awarded are based solely on the requirements as defined in the marking scheme. Marks should not be awarded with grade thresholds or grade descriptors in mind. Right, so again, for the examiner, grading according to the marking scheme and nothing else. Okay, so these were the generic marking principles, and just so you know, these are the same for paper 1 and paper 2, right? So they're applied throughout. And now we're going to move on to the specific questions, right? So question 1 is the comprehension question, and as you can see, uh, questions 1A to 1H, right? The assessment objectives covered are R1 and R2 only, which is understanding of explicit meanings and understanding of implicit meanings and attitudes. And that's a total of 16 marks, right? The individual marks are given. And let's take a look at the question itself. So, right, we have the insert over here. right? These are the questions, as you can see, they are direct questions, right? So explicit, implicit meaning using your own words, explain, right, what this term means from the text, give two features and all these, give two details. So these are explicit meaning questions, okay? Using your own words, uh, this is implicit. And one thing to keep in mind, very important, when Cambridge assigns a certain weightage to a question, that means those are the number of valid points that are expected from the candidate. So if it's worth 2 points, meaning two valid points in the answer, right? As you can see, give two details, and these should be clearly separated. So, right, if you write out both details as one, that will still count as one, right? Or if you write one and the second one is similar, you're just wording it differently, that's still one. So two separate, clearly defined responses, and so you get 2 marks. If it's worth 1 mark, one valid point as the answer. If it's worth three, obviously. Okay. Now, for example, in this question, how is it three exactly? Well, how does Mo feel about trying to climb Nameless? Right? So that's one thing you need to answer. How does this character feel? And then two details in a text to support your answer. So the two details will be for marks 2 and 3. All right. Now, these are the actual answers. And as you can see, for example, Cambridge mentions over here award 1 mark for partial answer, 2 marks for full explanation, right? And credit alternatives explaining the whole phrase. So ancient giant of the forest, and right, this is the expected answer. Another thing you will notice is, right, there's a column for guidance, and that's where they mention what will not be accepted as an answer, right? So two features of the enormous trunk of Nameless, which will make it difficult to climb, and these are the two expected answers, right? But if someone mentions cylinder or enormous, then that will not be awarded any marks. Okay, so these are the actual answers from the marking scheme that are expected from the candidates, and the marking accordingly, right? And then we have, right, so again over here, award of 3 marks, and they've given you the level criteria: 1 mark for some awareness, 2 marks for attempt to add an explanation and show some understanding, 3 marks for an explanation which shows a secure understanding, right? So depending on the quality of the answer. Then moving on to question 2, right, which is the writer's craft type questions, and they're all demonstrating an understanding of how writers achieve effect and influence readers. All right, so you have all these questions. Again, the weightage and the required valid points, that remains the same. These are the questions, right? We're not going into details about the questions themselves, right? And then, right, these are the expected answers. The assessment objective is the same for all of these. And they've mentioned, oh, well, in some questions you have options, right? So if not one, then the other. As long as you mention one of these 3 points over here, you'll get a mark. Okay. And so that is about the comprehension, right? And in the next video, I'll be talking about the summary question. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.